Hey everyone, it's Jyoti Reiki, and I just finished talking to Steve Sweeney. He is a former state senator as well as Senate president, and he's a Democrat running for governor. We talked a little bit about his perspectives and priorities. Check it out. If you can just talk to us a little bit about maybe a minute or so to tell us about your campaign and why voters should vote for you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. The reason why voters should vote for me is because I'm the only candidate in the race that actually knows where the lights in the bathrooms are on day one. I know Trenton very well. I know how it works, and I've witnessed people come from the outside thinking they know things. Next thing you know, it's 2 years before they're figuring it out, and then they're running for re-election, and things don't get done. We need to hit the ground running, which I am the one candidate that can do that. I expect to be successful and start fixing some of the things that are broken here.
Just for some people that maybe don't know you as well, what are some of the most important issues to you?
Well, to me personally, trying to make sure that people with disabilities are treated with respect and dignity, given the opportunity for employment and housing, obviously is very important to me. I have a daughter with Down syndrome, and that's what motivated me to get into politics. I'm a union ironworker by trade. I didn't go to college. I went to an apprentice program. But when I witnessed the way people with disabilities were treated, it got me pretty angry. And you can complain about things or you can do something about it. And I think I've done quite a bit, but there's quite a bit more to be done before we could ever say we really accomplished what we need to do.
I'm glad that you mentioned affordability. Obviously, housing is one of the biggest issues facing New Jersey residents right now. That is one of the issues that I'm going to get to. But first, I want to start off with just some general information about the Asian American demographic here in New Jersey. You might know that we are over 1 million strong. We are the fastest growing group and voter demographic here in the state. And in your experience, I'd just like to know what you think some of the key issues are facing Asian Americans here in New Jersey, and how have you worked to address some of those issues?
Well, first, hate. There's racism that unfortunately President Trump, can't believe I'm saying President Trump, has allowed to grow under his leadership. Language is an issue at times also. People come to this country looking for a better life, looking to advance and help their families. And a lot of times, if you're young, it's easier to learn a new language. If you're older, it's harder. So making sure government programs are in multiple languages. Look, New Jersey is the most diverse state in the nation. We'll be the first minority majority state in the United States. So again, having documents that are in the language that people speak should be a pretty easy one. On your phone, you can translate on your phone. So there's no reason why, if you want to go to a motor vehicle or another government entity and say, hey, listen, I speak Indian or Punjab, you know what I mean? Can you print it out in the language, your native language that you understand? So making things easier for people, not making them harder.
So you would say language accessibility is probably one of the biggest issues facing Asian Americans here in New Jersey, and
I think,
anti-Asian hate.
yeah, I think they go hand. They're both issues that people are dealing with every day. Unfortunately, in this state, like I said, in this country right now, Trump has made it okay to hate. I don't think it's okay. So I believe in respect and treating people with dignity, and unfortunately, we have an administration that doesn't care about any of that right now.
So just to follow up, how would you engage with the community to identify those issues and help resolve them?
Well, obviously, I would sit with the community. I would sit with leaders in the community, which is what I've always done, and listen. That's the most important thing that a leader can do is listen to people because, you're living the issues. So you, more than anyone, will know what the challenges are. Listen, I'm thinking, obviously language hate is because it's in front of me, but I'm sure there's a lot of issues that the Asian community would be happy to tell me about and educate me about so we could start to make things easier for them.
So would you be open to hosting, events, conversations, town halls, things of that sort?
Well, absolutely. That was always my strength, is going and I was just at a Sikh temple today, right? In Carteret. And after 9/11, the Sikhs were treated like terrorists because they wear turbans. They're probably the most peaceful people, hardworking people, honest people. And, you know, so when you sit down and you start talking to each other, you learn a lot. Not talking at someone, but listening and having a conversation. So my success as Senate president was bringing groups in, listening to issues, and because what an issue is today might not be 2 months from now, it might be something else. So being flexible and yeah, I would meet. Listen, I'm the only candidate that's running that doesn't want to be president, at least on my side. Every Democrat that's run for governor, well, every governor since 2000, starting with Jim McGreevey, wanted to be president. So I just want to be governor. I want to fix New Jersey. I want to make it more affordable. And the good news is we can fix it if you only focus on the job of being the governor, not trying to be something else. So when you're only doing that job, you have time to sit down and meet with groups monthly to see how things are going. And I'm not talking about staff. I'm talking about the governor sitting in the room listening.
Great. Yeah, let's move on to affordability. But before we do, just a little fact, I don't know if you know this about me, but Carteret is actually, I am from the Sikh faith. And
Oh, I
so,
didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is like when I was born here, obviously in New Jersey, that is where we settled originally. So my parents they moved here before I
Well,
was born.
well, listen, I can tell you, I knew zero about the Sikh faith 8 years ago. And then a handful of gentlemen walked in my office and set up a meeting with me. And the Sikh religion is so beautiful because it's about inclusion and like my daughters accept it. You know what I mean? But that was from the very beginning. They were DEI before anyone else. So yeah, I really, really value my relationship with the Sikh community. I did legislation for them. We did April 14th, Sikh Day. We did April,
Saki.
designate April as Sikh month. And I passed the bill, the first one in the country, to recognize the 1984 genocide. That is very important to the Sikh community to get recognition. So yeah, I'm proud of my relationship. I had no idea you were. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, let's move on a little bit to affordability. I know that's something that you've campaigned about, and that is one of the most, if not the most important issue to voters here across New Jersey. So in a recent poll of Asian Americans here in New Jersey, the majority said that the economy was the number one issue that they cared about. And New Jersey is one of the least affordable states here in the country. I'm curious to know what your plans are, Senator, to make it easier for residents to live in New Jersey and to raise their families here in New Jersey as well.
Well, again, the economy is number one because what do we worry about? We worry about do we have a job so we can pay our rent or our mortgage, feed our family, make sure our kids get an education. So the economy is always very important. The affordability aspect of it is, look, I put a 2% property tax cap in place in 2011. If we had not done that, I mean, believe me, right now, New Jersey just passed 10,000 on average property tax, right? It would have been 15,000 if we had not done the 2%. So continuing to find ways to deliver services at a reduced cost. No, by the way, we can. There's just too much waste in New Jersey because there's too much duplication of services, from town to town. So, like I said, one, shrinking the size of government while still delivering it. I did it in Gloucester County when I ran the county government. We don't have jails in Gloucester County. We were spending $30 million a year on corrections. We now spend 10. You know, and again, we have prisoners. You know what I mean? They're just in jails where they were half full. We're the only county has countywide EMS. We run half the ambulances now than we did before and have faster response times. It is doable, but and most importantly, housing. We need to add 200,000 units of housing. And I've heard pretty much every candidate that I'm running against talking about that. But the difference is I know how to get it done. What you have to do is towns have affordable housing funds. They're not using it. They're using it more to fight affordable housing than anything else. And by the way, My first house was affordable housing. It was a townhouse. I'm an iron worker. My wife was a hairstylist, and no one objected to me living in the neighborhood. So we got to be honest with, there's some other prejudice when it's stigmatized by affordable housing. But young people can't start accumulating wealth if they can't buy a house. So we're delaying a generation of young people by not letting them buy a house. And renting is not the answer. Renting you'll never accumulate wealth while you're renting. So it's important that we take the affordable housing dollars. And by the way, the Mount Laurel decision was decided in 1971. Why towns are still allowed to fight and not follow through with this, I have no idea. But I can tell you, I will step in with the governor's office and make sure we start building housing. And not just affordable housing, too, for people that start out and then they go up to that next step. But we need 200,000 units, and I put out a plan on my website that shows you how we get it in 5 years.
Right. I was going to mention that. Yeah, we're very behind. 200,000 units is pretty far behind. And do you anticipate being able to expedite that?
Absolutely, absolutely, because you make it a priority as a governor, and working with our DEP. Listen, when something's a priority, I've been there enough. When it becomes a priority to an administration, it gets done.
Okay, great. I'm going to move on now. We're going to change directions towards immigration. That's
Mhm.
another issue that is very important to the AAPI community. So New Jersey's economy and communities depend on immigrants, including immigrants who are undocumented. According to American Immigration Council, in New Jersey, immigrants account for 35% of entrepreneurs, 42% of STEM workers, and 30% of nurses. And nationally, at least 1.7 million Asian Americans are undocumented. So, do you support codifying the New Jersey Immigrant Trust Directive through the New Jersey Immigrant Trust Act and full funding for the Defense and Deportation Initiative?
I absolutely don't support the Immigrant Trust Act for one reason. It doesn't stop anyone. It hasn't stopped anyone. Explain to me, we have the Immigrant Trust Doctrine right now by the Attorney General with the support of the governor. So how come people are getting deported? Why are people being arrested? I don't believe in lying to people and giving false hope. What I believe is that we need to give a process, and that starts with Washington. We need a process for honest, law abiding people that come here to become U.S. citizens, not to have to stand on the sideline, pay Social Security, pay all the other taxes, right? And for 15 years, you can't get access to benefits because you can't become a citizen. That is unfair and it's unjust. But like I said, this immigrant trust doctrine isn't real. It's not stopping people from being deported. And you have a president who's a criminal. Number one, he was found guilty, that is arresting people illegally. I just read an article where he doesn't think American citizens or do due process. That's what separates us from every other country, is that we have due process. And that separates me from everyone that's running on my side. I have great compassion for our immigrants. I really do. And I want them to become US citizens. But I'm not going to lie to them and say, oh, we have this, so you don't have to worry, they can't come get you. So when they pick you up, what did the immigrant trust doctrine do? Nothing. So, because we're not cooperating right now, you know that. Police are not cooperating right now, and people are being deported. So let's come up with a system and a process that's fair and honest to support our immigrant population. So, look, I'm running against two people in Congress right now. Maybe they can do their job and get and work on this so people can get here legally and work here legally and earn that citizenship. But one other piece of this. But if you came here as a criminal, you got to go. And if you break the laws while you're here, you got to go. But otherwise, people that are here peacefully and law abiding and just being part of the economy and society, we have to help them.
So, from your perspective, what steps would you take to make sure that immigrants, no matter what their status is, can contribute to our state?
Well, what I would do is honestly anything and everything I can with the Attorney General to protect our immigrants. Like I said, but I'm not going to mislead people and promise them sunshine when it's raining because I was talking to Mayor Baraka the one day. We were in an event. That's where they first started deporting people. He's vehemently against it, as he should be, but they still did it. So again, we have to have an honest dialogue here and focus where it needs to be focused. It needs to be focused in Washington, where people can come here and they can get, they get their opportunity to go to work and they don't have to worry every day that someone's going to come snatch them up when they're going to work. Because if we emptied out all the immigrants here, we'd be in a lot of trouble.
Right. And you mentioned Attorney General quite a few times. So as governor, you would obviously appoint the Attorney General. I'm curious to know, what are you looking for in an Attorney General?
Someone that is not political, someone that doesn't play politics at all. When I was the freeholder director in Gloucester County, if I saw the prosecutor, I would say hello to him. I don't have anything else to do with them. I want them doing nothing but their job. And listen, and I want an attorney general that'll stand up for the little guy too when they're getting wronged. My father always taught me, you got to look out for the little guy. You got to stand up. You got to be a voice. They can't afford lobbyists. They can't afford all the big wig stuff that the big corporations and all have. So making sure we protect workers from being abused. And a lot of those immigrant workers are absolutely taken advantage of and are abused, especially in construction, which I'm in, where they just, you know, they take advantage of them. There's no overtime. You work 7 days a week. You're working as many hours a day. So, they're not treating workers the way they should.
Okay. And the reason that I ask you is, currently AAPI New Jersey has been involved with advocating to the Attorney General's office on behalf of Victoria Lee. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this case, but she's a 25-year-old young woman from Fort Lee who was having a mental health episode, and she died at the hand of police. So the reason that I ask you is, obviously I know that two separate entities, but I was curious to know what you were, and I'm sure that some voters were curious to know, what are you looking for in an Attorney General? And this is a case that, it very well might roll into your administration if you win.
Well, I'll give you a little background with me on this. We created the first independent prosecutors law in the nation. And let me explain to you. I represented Bridgeton at one time. There was a shooting. An African American was killed. The police officers were Hispanic and African American that shot the man. The prosecutor was an African American female. And the community was not satisfied with the investigation because of the closeness between local police and the prosecutor's office. So I wrote a law that the Attorney General's office has to, they can't pick and choose, they have to investigate, violence with police, that they have to do it. But there's a separation because, again, you're dealing with attorney generals, in the state police. You're not dealing with the local police departments. And I got great confidence and trust in them. But when the community doesn't want to hear it, when you say you've done an investigation, you've done all the stuff right, and again, it's a minority and minority, it's not a race thing, and they still don't believe the outcome of the investigation, well, that tells you we need to do it better.
Okay. Thank you. We only have about 5 minutes left, and I want to get to just a quick lightning round. I have four pieces of legislation, and I'm just going to name what they are, and then you don't have to explain, but if you can just tell me whether you support it, have no opinion, or oppose the following legislation.
Sure.
Okay, great. So first up is the John R. Lewis Voter Empowerment Act.
Of course, I support that.
Second, New Jersey Immigrant Trust Act.
I told you I don't.
Right. And then same-day voter registration.
Listen, I support that. We tried to get it past the legislature several times when I was a Senate president with resistance from everyone. So, would I sign it? Of course I would sign it. More access to voting, the better.
Okay. And the last one is use of force oversight.
What's that use of force oversight? Explain to me.
So that includes mental health support, legal assistance, and community-based advocacy programs that would be tailored to like the AAPI community.
Oh, yes. I support that.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Great. So yeah, we only have about a couple of minutes left. So I just want to give you this opportunity to just talk specifically to the AAPI community about what the most important issues are to you and why you are running for governor.
Most important issues to me is getting New Jersey where it's affordable again. New Jersey's too expensive. And what happens here is rather than trying to curtail spending, we keep finding ways to raise more taxes. Like right now, they're looking to tax laser tag, bowling, all these other things, which, by the way, comes out of the same pocket that I'm paying on my other taxes. So maybe we need to slow down spending. And look, I believe government is absolutely necessary for the people that need it, the disabled, the working poor, seniors. But government can't be everything for everyone all the time. So again, if we want to get New Jersey affordable, I'm your guy. I know how to do it. I was the one that started consolidating schools. I know how to do it. All schools should be pre-K to 12. They shouldn't be no K to 2s, 4s, 6s, and 8s. And we're not going to close buildings. We're just going to get rid of school district administrations. That's where you save a lot of money. You need teachers. You need more teachers. So if you want someone that actually knows how to get things done, that's me. If you want someone that's going to give you a great speech and make promises, that's my opponents.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Amber, was there anything else that you wanted us to touch on? I just want to check in before we let you go because I know you're probably on a pretty tight schedule and it is Sunday, so we appreciate your time.
That's okay. Listen, I was, like I said, I was in Carteret today to Sikh temple, and it was great.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. While Amber just unmutes herself in case there's anything, I was just curious, since we are still recording here, one of the big things, obviously, I told you I practice Sikhism, and I know a big thing that has been pretty sensitive for the community. This is obviously on the federal level, but the rollback of safety protections
Yeah.
at places of worship. Just if I can get your thoughts on that. A lot of people feel like they're sacred places where they seek peace and connection to God. They feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, I believe in protecting those places. You know what I'm saying? Because people should be able to have a place where they can go and worship in their faith and not have to worry about violence. And we've seen too much violence around the country, and the Sikh community really has seen a lot of ever since 9/11. They saw, a lot of stereotypism. Talking to people today, people calling them Obama, insulting people like that. They're not terrorists. Sikhs are peace loving, some of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. You know what I mean? So it's like, if we got to know each other and I got to learn and know the Sikh community, what we're talking about, I love them. They're wonderful people. And it's all about giving. They feed, what amazes me is how much food they push at you at the end of each service. You know what I mean? It's pretty amazing.
The primary election is on June 10th. Voting by mail has already started, and you can vote early from June 3rd to the 8th. Thank you all so much for watching.